Hey guys, John here. I wanted to make a follow-up of my 7 questions for atheists video, and I wanted to kind of explain what I'm talking about about scientific research of religion and this particular talk that was at the Beyond Belief Conference 2.0. It's Scott Atran, and he is an anthropologist and psychologist. He has spent, I don't know, the last X number of years doing case studies of suicide bombers, specifically Muslim suicide bombers. And he gave a talk recently, late last year, and he's gone round and round with Sam Harris and similar people, and he has a differing opinion about the role of Islam and suicide bombers, and he has some data to back it up. So I wanted to put this out here because I noticed that virtually nothing of his is on YouTube. And I'm not saying that it's all right or that I know anything about this subject, but I think that he is actually bringing data to the conversation. And I think it's just enlightening to hear what he has to say. It's going to be broken up into multiple parts because of the 10-minute limit for videos, but here, take a look.
As well, Scott Atran is...
Oh, go ahead.
What?
They got the wrong thing up.
Research Director of the National Center for Scientific Research in Paris. He wrote a significant book, In Gods We Trust, The Evolutionary Landscape of Religion and the Native Mind. He has a new book called The Native Mind, Cognition and Culture in Human Knowledge of Nature, right? And spends more time on planes between here and the White House and Islamic countries than anybody I know. So, Scott Atran.
So the goal, my interest here is to give you a reality check about what terrorism is about. So far I've heard mostly ignorance and nonsense. You people really have no idea what it's about. Most of you probably get it from news reports. News reports follow a power law distribution. That is, very few sources of information are responsible for almost all information in the world. And that information has an error rate of between 30 and 40%. If you look at Reuters or the New York Times or any of the recent articles, for example, on the Madrid trial, which came to a conclusion yesterday, you'll find the error rate is even greater. It's mostly nonsense. And my interest in science is to try to face what I think is the basic irrationality of humankind that's not going to go away, and try to use science to understand it and leverage it where we can to stop killing and to make breakthroughs in seemingly intractable conflicts. All right, I will start while they're trying to figure this out. We've heard that religion, science, and philosophy may have roles to play in taming the demons and monsters within us, and that religion has done a particularly bad job. In fact, they've encouraged the demons and monsters within us. I think religion is basically a neutral vessel. It's done everything you can imagine, and its contrary. And there's nothing intrinsic. Okay. And there's nothing intrinsic. There's nothing intrinsic about religion for the good or for the bad. Again, any function you can conceive of for religion, the contrary has also been true in human cultures. Today, in the world, monks in Burma are defending freedom, as no one else is. And during the Rwanda crisis, when the United Nations completely backed out, and the United States was an abject coward, the only people to systematically save animists were Muslim clerics, who saved thousands, many thousands. So religion can do good things, and of course it can do horrible things. To say, as was said by a Nobel Prize winner last year, there are both good and bad non-religious and religious people, but only religious people teaches good people to be bad is a lesson in bad faith. Religion can just as well teach bad people to be good. This, in fact, is the history of human redemption and interest in it. To picture the Twin Towers still standing with what if there were no religion as a moral call to action is politically ignorant. If you read bin Laden's justification for his war against the United States, he writes, even if God had not granted us the gift of Islam, our pagan ancestors would have refused the arrival of these red mules. He goes on in his 1996 fatwa to outline why in our jahiliyyah, in our pagan past, we would have had no choice but to fight the United States. Why not propose to government leaders from around the world that preaching God is dead would that help them resolve their deep-seated political conflicts today? Now? Think about it. I proposed that to 30 ambassadors a couple of days ago, and the reaction was, why do you let this guy talk? It's not the denial of religion or God that's nuts. I do it all the time. I deny God, I deny religion, and I'm not nuts. It's the denial of the meaning of religion to human psychology and to human history. That's nuts. To believe it's going to go away and you're just going to argue it away through reason, that's nuts. But it's been tried before. Nietzsche and Nechayev were one of a wave in the 19th century of philosophers who tried to do it. I think the present exercise is frivolous. It's mostly an hysterical reaction to 9/11. I think previous attempts have been much more dangerous. In human history, it was only in the middle of the 19th century that large segments of humanity became aware, much to their general surprise and rather unpleasantly, that intricate and abstruse philosophies, the bastard childs of the Enlightenment, could directly influence their lives and kill them. I'm going the wrong way, sorry. I don't think that scientists, even the very best of us, have any special insight into moral problems. To be a good scientist, you have to be telescoped on a particular problem. If you're not, you can't do science. Now, you can have broad views. That's not impossible. But in general, I don't see scientists having much better moral intuitions than the baker on the corner street. There have been statements about Muslims and Muslim radicalization that I just want to make clear. Religious education is inversely proportional. Okay, it's a negative predictor of being involved in violence in the jihad. It is a negative predictor of being radicalized in prison. As far as madrasas are concerned, we've done, I think, the only serious study of madrasa. We've taken every single terrorist incident to date known. Okay? We've analyzed where they come from, what their origins were, how they got to where they did. And of about 60,000 madrasas, 15 have been involved in violence. 15. So that's like saying, well, Columbine had a bunch of crazy kids. We should shut down the high schools in the United States. One example, scientists are not immune to supernatural entities too. We believe in memes. Well, some of us do. These are things that don't exist in space and time, that can't be pinned down, they're in constant flux. I think that knowing evolutionary constraints on moral judgments can help us not make mistakes. So communism tried to convince us that there was not any intrinsic competition between human beings for status and prestige and wealth, and you can just deny it and it would go away. And of course, that ran up against human nature, as we all know. But I don't think that evolutionary intuitions or studies about human morality are going to help us much in a global world where strangers and nations and the globe itself is at play, because evolution didn't produce that understanding any more than it produced understanding in us of the infinitely small and the infinitely big. We're not intuitive quantum physicists, and we're not intuitive Darwinians any more than we're intuitively able to judge moral propositions for strangers and nations. I do think that morality, working with different kinds of scientific findings about morality, can help us compose something new to deal with this. But again, I don't see any automatic or obvious way to do this. I'm one scientist who's very pessimistic about our species. We have intermittently killed one another. Violence itself in the human race follows a power law distribution. That is, violence, quotidian violence, is actually declining, but very few events are causes for major violence. That's tens of millions of people. And if you follow it up to the next level, that is the next outbreak, the prediction is hundreds of millions of people will be dead. Okay?